The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. New York Met baseball, past, present, future. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and the hosts of the Met Show are Marty Rose and Robert Cole, both present and accounted for. Nice to have you, gentlemen.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. We're getting to the end of the Hot Stove League. And with spring training right around the corner, before we talk about our likes and dislikes about the Hall of Fame, let me hear what you both think of the way it's stacked up. If we had to go to bat, had to go into the season tomorrow with Reyes maybe at second and Flores as a utility guy, Cabrera at third if they don't sign a third baseman. Could you see it being okay? Start with you, Robert.
Yes, I can see it being okay, but I have this sneaking suspicion that the Mets may do what they did with Cespedes a couple of years ago and sign a couple of guys on 3-year contracts with opt-outs after a year. And as it gets closer and closer, I'm thinking that may become more and more likely.
Do you think the Boras market of free agents is dropping enough that they may be able to get Moustakas, or he'd be terrific?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking Moustakas primarily. And, yeah, almost everybody that's still on the market is a Boras agent. I mean, Boras is their agent. And those guys have to be getting a little bit itchy right now. I mean,
I was going to say, I know that next year is a lot of teams are waiting for the free agents that are coming out next year. And
correct.
This could be a massive misjudgment by Boras if these guys end up having to cheap out and not be satisfied.
Now, another guy that I really think might jump at that, too, would be Todd Frazier. I mean, he's a New Jersey guy. I mean, he really liked being with the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
The Yankees made a small move today. They signed Danny Espinosa. So I don't think he's going to be going back there anytime soon.
Yeah. Do you think and again, we're going to talk about the Mets, but I'm just curious, both of you, do you think the Yankees are going to go with two rookies in the infield?
No.
No, I don't think so either. No.
So what I don't understand with that in mind, why wouldn't they be more anxious to sign Frazier?
Probably salary. I mean, Cashman is really, really hep on keeping under that salary cap. And he probably still has a couple of other moves he wants to make. And, you know, it's rather hard trying to stay under the cap and everything else. You know, that's why he's done the things he's done so far.
Okay, well, he seems to have set himself up with a lot of power, and leaving it to two rookies in the infield is not what I'd suggest. I don't know.
Well, I don't think you're going to have the two rookies in the infield. If Espinosa shows that he still has something left, and Torres will probably both start the season, the two young guys will be in AAA. You have the issue with Gleyber Torres. If he stays in the minors for, I think it's another 10 days or 2 weeks, then they get an extra year out of him. So, I mean, that's almost a definite that he will not be with the team on start, opening day.
Okay. More and more moves are being made that way throughout baseball just to, placate the situation of where these guys are. And, you bring them up, it puts them on the clock. Eventually, they're going to become free agents, and they do that to extend it. I think this will give them another year. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, you sacrifice a week in the beginning of the season, which I don't think is going to make or break them, and then you got a whole other year for them.
Okay. Are you guys happy with the Reyes signing, Marty?
Well, only if he's a utility guy, because he's the only guy that can fill in for Rosario, really, to play short. He can play third, he can play second, but I don't want to see him out there every day. I don't. If they don't make another move, I'd rather see Wilmer, Flores at second, and Cabrera at third. But I still think they're going to do something. I don't know what. It said that they don't want to make a trade. They don't want to give anything up. So Harrison is doubtful. But, Nunez is out there as well. And Frazier that we were already mentioned. So I would, like I said, I would not, definitely not want to see Reyes out there every day. And I think when they did sign him, Sandy did say that he was going to be a utility guy. So if that's the case, then they've already got a plan, or they're waiting and waiting and waiting till the salary requests drop even further, and then they could get somebody on the cheap, which is the Mets' way of doing things usually.
For sure. You have said in the past that you're not a big Walker fan, Marty.
No, I think why go back to where you already were? I think we're past that. He was decent when he was here. I give you that. Then he got hurt. I mean, I don't want to see another guy that's going to get hurt. I just rather go younger. If you're going to be so-so, it looks like they're going to be so-so unless they do something. I don't know what, but and Conforto's got to come back when they say May 1st, not July. Like everybody else is saying. I don't think they're going to go back to where they were with Walker. I just don't think so.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree with one thing you said. You'd be happy with Flores at second, and I wouldn't be.
Okay.
At all.
All right.
Just defensively.
I think they should give him a shot. I really do. I mean, we've seen in the past that you don't give a guy a shot and he goes somewhere else. And I don't have to mention the two guys I'm talking about. Not that Flores could be, not that Flores could be like that, but I mean, he's probably a better fielder than Murphy. And if he does, even on a part-time basis, he hit fairly well, power-wise. And he did.
He's a good hitter, no question about that.
Yeah,
and he'll streak as well. He'll give you 2-3 weeks in a row where he's popping.
I just think they should give him a shot. I do.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take that. Robert, what do you think about that?
Oh, I would definitely give Flores a shot also. I mean, he can't be any worse a second baseman than Murphy. He is a middle infielder. Murphy was not a middle infielder. So I most definitely would give him a shot over Reyes getting the full-time job. But I'm 90% sure in my mind that they're going to do one other thing. And it'll be on the cheap, and it'll probably be, sign a guy to a 3-year contract and let him have an opt-out after a season. But that'd be all right, too, get him through this year.
Oh, it also puts the player in the mindset it's like a walk year.
Correct. Yep.
For the player. He can do much better, and if you sign the right kind of player, it's not going to sit back and say, well, I've got my 3 years. I've seen that many times in baseball of late. So
absolutely.
Okay, guys, let's talk Hall of Fame. Since last we got together, the ballot, the announcement was made. The guys that made it. The one guy on the bubble that didn't make it was Edgar Martinez. He will no doubt make it next year. But I'm going to ask you guys philosophically, should a designated hitter make the Hall of Fame? Not that Martinez didn't play some 300-odd games, 400 games maybe it's at third base. But should the Hall of Fame be for position players who can take a glove out there and only for position players? Robert.
Okay, well, I'll kind of throw a question back at you. Do you feel Big Papi's going to make the Hall of Fame?
I do. I feel he's going to make it, but I'm wondering philosophically, should he make it? He deserves it from the standpoint of probably being the best designated hitter ever. You can go that way. You could also say Edgar Martinez was one of the best hitters during his period of time playing as well. No
and
question.
The other thing is, I mean, it is a position now. I mean, it is a spot. It is a position. I mean, you're going to ignore the fact that these guys, can hit. Are you going to put them on the side? It took a while for closers to get in, but now you're seeing closers get in also. So, yes, I think the DH should be able to get in now at this point.
Okay. Marty.
Yeah, I agree. Look, that position in the batting order, I guess you'd call it, has been around for 45 years. And only the best of these guys are ever going to get in. And I saw Edgar Martinez his whole career, as you guys did. This guy was a great clutch hitter. He was terrific, and he should, I would vote for him. I wouldn't hold it against anybody being a DH, but I think the only DHs that are ever going to get in is these guys that are super-duper hitters, like the two guys we mentioned, Papi and Edgar.
Right.
Yeah.
And they are. There's no question about that. They're lacking in nothing. But then there is the other controversy, Hall of Fame controversy, and I won't even name Papi as a suspect because 80% of the ball players of today's day and age, you can consider them to be suspect as well. But our Hall of Fame, are PED users, acknowledged PED users, Hall of Fame worthy?
Well, who are you asking, Ralph?
I'll ask you. Start. You
popped
up
okay.
first. You buzzed first. Put it in question form.
Well,
this is the poor man's Jeopardy.
Yeah. What is? Why not? No. The whole situation. I think you're going to find it similar to the DH, where some guys you just can't keep out. Some guys were just so good that you're not going to be able to keep them out. Now, as Hal Bach pointed out previously, the older writers were more apt to leave out the PED guys. And the older writers who are now retired, I think, 10 years or more? I think.
But then they lose their...
At the number, they lose their vote.
Right.
So as these guys, year by year, as these guys lose their vote more every year, and the younger guys take over, these younger guys, a lot of them grew up watching that era. And that's why year to year these guys are getting more votes. And you there's only a certain couple of guys that we know failed tests, but you just don't know. Did Piazza do it? You don't know. Did Rodriguez do it? The catcher that's already in?
Yeah, Pudge.
Right.
You know? Pudge?
Yes.
Well, to me, sure as hell looked like it, but you don't know. So, the guys that, if he was so good, you can't keep him out. And I think that's the way it's going to be. And I think more of these guys are going to get in as time goes by.
Okay. Robert.
Well, as much as I hate to say it, okay, Bonds and Clemens should get in. They would have gotten in had they not used PEDs. They both had Hall of Fame careers previous to that. So I really don't see keeping them out. Guys like McGuire, guys like Sosa, okay, almost entirely all PED. Yes, absolutely they should not get in. But you have those couple of guys that were already on the way to the Hall of Fame, and for whatever reason they decided they needed more, and they got on the juice as well. But without the juice, they still would have made the Hall of Fame.
Well, there's the devil's advocate for their getting in is that Clemens was facing batters that were juiced, and Bonds was facing pitchers that were juiced.
Correct.
So pretty much the leveling of the playing field, the players took care of that. So the only thing we can't do anymore is be able to compare, say, was Bonds a better left fielder than Ted Williams and Ty Cobb? The person that comes to mind is Griffey Jr. Was he better than Mays? Not Bond, as comparing position by position. Now you say Griffey Jr. was never brought up in steroids or whatever. He may not have ever been brought up, but you have to say that if everybody in the era is to be suspect, he's one of them. He bulked up a little bit over the years, and because we don't know, we just have to assume that there's a very good possibility. So if we're going to judge these players of this era, we should judge them how they did in this era, not necessarily because of steroids, but they all did. If they all did it, then some of them did it better. And for that reason, just to make things easy in life, I would say these guys, Palmeiro, all of them should go in with a little notation on the plaque. These statistics were compiled in an era where it was commonly known that many players did steroids.
I wouldn't put it on the guy's plaque, Ralph. I would put it somewhere, a note somewhere up in the hall, somewhere there where they're all hanging, and say, put the years up there. And say
well,
that.
or maybe they should have all those guys in the same section of the hall.
Yeah, in the era in which
break it down. They could break everything down. The dead ball era, the steroid era, whatever era you want to call
absolutely.
it.
The era before Jackie Robinson came in.
Right.
Right.
Pre-integration era.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's an excellent idea, Mert.
Yep.
Not on the plaque because, and it's a museum. It's for education. People take it as if it's anything but subjective. You can never get total objectivity out of the votes. We were arguing when we were kids, or not kids, but whatever, when guys like Pee Wee Reese and Rizzuto were up for many years and didn't get in. Right. We were arguing when Enos Slaughter got in, should have he been in? There's going to, because there's no set rules and there classifications change every year. The voting change, it seems, they go every couple of years. You just let them in, for crying out loud. Now that brings me to the other Hall of Fame controversy, and that's Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose. Should they be in the Hall of Fame? Start with Robert Cole.
Okay, Shoeless Joe Jackson, yes. Pete Rose, no. And no for Pete Rose because he's had chances, okay, to not exonerate himself, but admit that he did what he did, and he just keeps, getting himself deeper and deeper. If you follow Joe Jackson's case, like I've read just about everything there is on that, I mean, here was a man who really did not know and wasn't intelligent or educated enough to know what he was doing, and there's no evidence that he actually tanked any games.
Oh, he had a great World Series.
Yeah, yes, he did. He did take money. He acknowledged he took money. Apparently he wasn't intelligent enough to know why he was taking the money, and, that's what's really being used against him.
Okay. Now, there is the case that Peter Golenbach made to me the other day, that if you could just disassociate Rose's managerial career with his playing career, he could be brought in from that standpoint.
But how do you do that? I mean, how can you expect people who go to the Hall of Fame and they're going to say, well, he's here because of being a great player, but he was a terrible person and a terrible manager? Well, then you can bring in, do you have to be
not a terrible person? You could bring in Ty Cobb and say he was a great player, but he was a terrible person.
They got Pete Rose stuff in the museum. It's just that there's no plaque for him in the hall because he was never elected to it or he's suspended. But they had stuff of his in the museum. Where they have all the
walls, they have hats.
Yeah, all the uniforms and the gloves and all that stuff. They had stuff of his in there, but as long as he's suspended, then he's not eligible. So there's nothing we could do about it.
Okay. Have you been up to the hall, Marty?
Oh yeah, a number of times. Not lately, of course, but
but I've never been there.
Really?
My wife's family had a summer place in Delaware County, and Cooperstown was maybe, hour and a half from there, something like that. So, when my kids were little, we used to go up there during the summer. In fact, Peggy and the girls went up there, and I stayed home and worked. But for a few times that we were up there during the summer, I went there, and I tried. I had three baseball cards. I went into one of those stores, and I tried to sell them to the guy. I wanted to see what I could get, because I just got everybody's mother, including my mother. I come back from the service, and they threw all my baseball cards out.
Marty, your mother threw away my broken bat, my broken Ken Hubbs bat.
Hubbs bat? Yes. They threw all the cards
to her
shoebox
because I knew my mother would throw it away when I went in the Air Force.
Well, they did. Shoeboxes full. So I said, what? Do you know how much those were worth? And then my dad looks at me and he goes, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? So I went down to one of these card shows, and I bought a Mays, a Snyder, and a Mantle card. 3 different years. I paid like $5 each at the time, and that was when was that? Early 1970s, I guess. And so a couple of decades later, I walk into this store in Cooperstown, and I show the guy a 57 Mantle card. I say, how much can I get for it? He goes, I'll give you 40% of what I could sell it for, which was $200. So at the time, he could have sold it for $500. At the time. Now it was a couple of decades ago. So I don't know what the hell it's worth now, but
those cars go up and down worse than the stock market.
They did?
Oh, really? At this point?
Yep, they go up and they go down. Depends on what people are looking for. You know, if you just go on eBay, and it gives you a good idea of what you can do on cards.
Yeah, won't you think if you had like a 57 Mantle card that was worth $500 like 20 years ago, that it would have to be worth more than that now? I would think so.
Well, the first question would be, what condition is it in?
Well, I mean, not mint, obviously, but I showed the guy the card, and he said he'd give me $200 for it at the time, and he'd sell it for $500. So
yeah. Because what you can do is, I mean, you can send it out to be graded, and when they grade, okay, that actually increases the value because now, you know, somebody's put a grading on it. So if it grades at an 8, a 9, or, you know, hopefully a 10, it adds value to what it would be, you know, raw, as they say.
Interesting. But anyway, yeah, Cooperstown's a great little town, Ralph. I mean, you know, they got a million of these card shops and restaurants, and you know, very, very pretty lake, Lake Otsego, I think it is, right there, and really, really nice, really nice town.
It's like going back to the 60s.
I was blessed back about 10 years ago. The Hall of Fame, the All-Star Game was in San Francisco, and the Hall of Fame set up an event out here where they, and I have a bunch of pictures I took, and I put it on my blog, and I'll send you guys both a link to it, where they sent out uniforms of Christy Mathewson and McCovey and all the old Giants and other great stars, and you walked around. They had it set up in the convention center, and you walked around and you looked at the displays and stuff. It was almost like you were in Cooperstown. From that standpoint, I look at some of the stuff and you get goosebumps. I mean, that's they had them set up on mannequins.
The Bear and I were actually at the Willie Mays induction.
Oh, really?
After that, yes. That was the only induction I was ever there for. But man, it's so hot, and there's like no shade. You know.
Oh, that must have been incredibly crowded.
And it was very, very crowded, insanely crowded. Yeah. But I mean, you had to park like a mile away, but it's so hot. There's no shade. We don't even have a seat. We had to stand behind all the chairs. I mean, it was nuts. But, you know, at least I can say I was there for that, and it was great.
Yeah, my mom went up there with my brother once, and then they had something in camp. The honor campers got to go, and those of us who weren't honor campers, made honor roll and stuff, didn't get to go. And I was, as you could well imagine, one of the didn't get to goers. Robert, did you ever get up to Cooperstown?
Oh yeah, I've been up there several times. I went. My father took me. I went as a young older boy, and then I took my son a couple of times as well. Good.
Who was your favorite player as a kid? Who was your favorite Met, Robert? And I'm going to ask Marty that in a second, too.
Well, my first early Met, Gil Hodges was always my favorite player. And then as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, Roger Maris became my favorite player. But my favorite Met early on was Ron Swoboda.
Oh, very interesting. Marty?
Well, to me, it was, it was always Seaver. I mean, the guy was just great from the get-go. It just, what could you say about him? I think the worst thing I think was, I think he lost Game 1 in 1969, didn't he?
Yes,
he lost game.
He will.
Well, in '73, he lost Game 7. I'll tell you that. Or 6. I think it was 6.
Oh, it's probably 6.
It was
the game I
6.
went to in Oakland. The only World Series I've ever been to. Game 6, Oakland Mets, 1973. They lost, and I knew they were going to lose the next day. There was just no question in my mind.
Yeah, well, in '69, I was in Vietnam, and I had to listen. There was a 12-hour time difference, and
right.
They did play those games in the daytime back then. So I had to stay up all night listening on the radio, and I did that for Game 1, and they lost. And I said, "Oh man, this is And the Orioles were big favorites, I believe.
Huge favorites. Huge
right?
favorites.
Yeah. So game 2, I couldn't stay up. I didn't stay up. And I heard that they won Game 2, so I said, "Oh, okay, we're back in it." So then I stayed up for Game 3 and Game 4 and Game 5. It was just, just like we used to do when we were kids with the transistor
under the pillow and stuff. Yes.
That was great.
Or in school with the transistor with the wire running up your sleeve.
Up your sleeve. Oh yeah, those were the days.
Good memories, absolutely good memories.
Yeah.
Overall, I'm gonna ask you to pick a number. We haven't even gone into spring training. Give me an over/under on the Mets this year. And Robert first.
I'm going to say 80 to 85.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Somewhere in there.
Now, if they sign Moustakas, who would fit right in the middle of pretty decent lineup, Cespedes, provided you get Conforto back, and I still think that if it takes a while to get Conforto back, what with Bruce being signed, they're going to be okay with Lagares and Nemo.
They could go up to 85. Considering that the Braves, the Phillies, and the Marlins are still bad, if they could take advantage of that and have the damn pitchers get through a season without going down, which is virtually impossible for them.
Well, that's the key. I think lineup-wise, even without Moustakas, if they get the pitching, they'll be around 85 wins.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've addressed the problem as best they could. They can't guarantee there's going to be no injuries, but they totally revamped their training staff, both medical and trainers. And they're going, as Marty said last week, they're going with the hydration approach with Cespedes. That's got to help. Can't hurt. I'd like to see him get LaCroix. I know he's still out there, and I think it would be a major upgrade. That would be nice, as long as they're tinkering and because you got to give them credit. They've done more, I think, than most teams in baseball. Milwaukee notwithstanding, in terms of re-signing Bruce, getting Gonzalez as basically a free agent, I'm sure, and I feel strongly about Reyes for another reason, that I think it's positive, even if he is a utility player, him mentoring Rosario's got to help. Can't hurt. The kid's 20 from the Dominican. You got a language problem. You got everything else. And he's happy to be in New York. That's another thing.
Oh, yeah. Plus, Rosario, was like a puppy dog with Reyes last year. I mean, you could see anything Reyes did, he was copying it. So, yeah, as a mentor, absolutely.
Yeah. And sometimes it is the little things that go into making a complete team, like that, like keeping sure that the guy's head is in the right place. And I'll tell you what, he really was cooperative. I mean, he got moved to Reyes. I mean, he got moved around a little bit, and when he was healthy, he was leading off and pretty decent, let's put it that way. But then he slumped at the beginning of last year terribly. So, as they say in the sitting area, they're vaced. Hey guys, I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much, both of you, and we'll be back next week.
All right, guys.
Good.
Have a good week. Good night.
Good. I'm going to ask everybody out there if they enjoy our offerings, either this show or any of the shows, please box up some lightly used children's books and bring them to the Head Start program wherever you are. Kids need to read. They need to develop a passion. They need to be school ready. They need to get their noses out of the devices. And it's a good idea to read. So get them some books. Children are our future. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Marty. We'll be back next week. Adios, everybody.
Good night.
Be well.